Okay, with that, it's time to proceed with the first session. It's a forum of Indian food importers that is a FIFI conclave on opportunities for international trade in fresh produce. Please join me in welcoming our panelist for the same. His Excellency David Pine, High Commissioner, New Zealand High Commission. Mr. Nitin Verma, Councillor, Agriculture, High Commission of Canada. Mr. Kiran Karamal, Councillor, Agriculture, Australian High Commission. Ms. Babette, Trade and Investment Commissioner, Embassy of Belgium. Ms. Marcella, Trade Commissioner, Pro Chile. Mr. Mark Rossman, Agricultural Attaché, U.S. Embassy. Mr. Angelo Mauricio, Agricultural Attaché, Brazil Embassy. And the session will be conducted by Mr. Amit Lohani, Founder, Director, Forum of Indian Food Importers, FIFI. Please give them a huge round of applause, everybody. It's time for our first session.
Good morning, all. I would welcome all the delegates of Fresh India. It's a great initiative by Media Today Group, and I'm happy to have all the panelists from all the diplomatic missions sitting over here. To have some context setting on what the session is all about. We've heard Apida, we've heard Mr. Patnaik talk about a lot of challenges, and it is great to hear an ex-government person understanding the challenges that we face, and a lot of points which I was supposed to talk about. He's taken care of that, and I'm thankful for him to be doing that. The Forum of Indian Food Importers is one of the largest food chambers representing food importers in the country, and we have more than 5,000 members representing different segmentations of the trade, from processed food to fresh fruits to tree nuts, meats, dairy, and different segments which are definitely part of the F&B trade in the country. Now, when you look at the association, we are a not-for-profit association engaged in promoting trade, and that is the whole agenda of the forum, to make sure that the trade happens in a smooth transitional form where there is level playing field for everyone, whether it is an importer or an exporter, producer, farmer. Everyone should have the same level of efficiency to promote and to produce for the consumers, which is healthy, safe, and that is what is important. Now, all right, so this is what we are talking about. We spoke of the fact that only 10% or 2% of India's fresh produce is getting exported. When you look at the numbers of India, we are importing, and the growth in the import sector of fresh fruit is tremendously high. If you look at apples, it has grown almost 50% in terms of year-on-year trade. If you look at pears, cherries, kiwi fruit, fresh plums, all of the categories have grown from 2020-21 to 21-22, and these are the latest numbers, which make sure that there is huge demand for these products in India. And as Mr. Patnaik stated, that these products don't infringe on the Indian market, but give you an opportunity to produce in India. We were not aware of how to produce kiwi in India. Now we are producing kiwi in India. I was recently in the Northeast and saw kiwi fruit being produced. The pineapples over there are phenomenal. So it's not that the Indian farmers and producers need to be threatened by international food, but they need to learn about international food. They need to understand how the packaging and sorting and the safety of the product is taken care of. Now, if you look at these numbers, we are just talking of one category right now in this, which is the largest imports of fresh fruit in India, which is apples. If you look at it, Iran today has become the largest exporter of apples in India with nearly 112,000 metric tons. If you look at Turkey, that's come at number 2. Chile is at number 3. Italy, United Arab Emirates. Now, that's a country which I don't understand because they don't produce apples. Now, that means that there are different countries which are using United Arab Emirates as a port where there's exchange of BL. It might be from any country. Some of them were telling me it might be the Chinese apple, which is banned in India. So I'm not sure about it. But the fact that United Arab Emirates comes at number 5 in terms of exports of apples to India is a number that we as an industry don't understand. We see that because of Indian barriers, a lot of trade has also changed and shifted. US used to be at one point of time one of the largest exporters of apple, and today has shrunk by 46% because of a tariff barrier or a retaliatory barrier of 20% additional duty on US apples. So that is something that we need to again bring it down. We need to bring down a level playing field in terms of the Indian market. India has the highest tariffs when it comes to the food import in the country. Our tariffs range from 30% to as high as 100%. These tariffs have to come down. These tariffs have to be rationalized as per different, bilateral agreements. They might be good for some countries, but in reality, overall tariffs should come down. We have been proposing to the Ministry of Commerce to bring tariffs to anywhere between 10 to 30%. And we hope that in the next few years, government will be pragmatic enough to bring these tariffs down to 10 to 30%. The other thing are the non-tariff barriers, which are the biggest hindrance for us. We are still able to manage with the tariff barriers. As you can see that the growth has been there. Anywhere between 50 to 80% or 100% growth has been there in these categories. But the non-tariff barriers, the phytosanitary certificate, nowadays, it's more of a political gamble when it comes to phytosanitary certificate. You give me one, you get one. You allow my mangoes, we'll get you apples. That is what is happening. So it's a tit-for-tat game which goes on. It's got nothing to do with the safety of the food, which a lot of times we hear the government projecting that it is about safe food from this country or that country. Most countries that we are trading with somehow has safe food. We would not say that they don't have safe food. That is one. Recently, the government introduced a non-GM certificate from countries which have never produced GM food, and that has been a big challenge. All of a sudden, one day, the government came up with this notification that on certain categories, especially apples, you need to issue a non-GM certificate certifying that the apple is non-GM, whereas countries like US, Chile, they don't export GM fruits. Europe is a non-GM region in itself. So that is something which has come up as a non-tariff barrier, which has created a lot of tussle between government, between importers and different trade organizations across the country. Now, when it comes to standards and testing, again, we see huge chaos in that. I have been getting reports on daily basis that this apple sample, because of MRL levels, have been tested as it has failed, whereas the same sample goes to a referral lab and gets passed. There is no citizen charter in terms of when the report is going to come, when we are going to get release of those shipments, and these are perishable shipments. We take a provisional NOC, take them at a warehouse, and we have to hold it till the time we get the final report. So food safety plays an important role in that, and the department needs to gear up. We've been apprising them of this situation, and we've been told that they are taking care of it and trying to resolve it as fast as possible. Custom clearance at ports is a huge challenge. Again, it increases the cost to the consumer. That is something that I think makes sense for the government to understand, that this money is not going to the Indian coffers. It is going to international shipping agencies who are charging us damage of anywhere between $200 to $400 every day, every time the shipment gets delayed. So these are some of the challenges that I wanted to speak about. When you look at why are still Indian consuming a lot of international fruit, first of all, as Mr. Patnaik said, there is the safety aspect, which is very important. They believe that the fruit coming in from certain parts of the world is safer than what they are getting over here. We hear of these pesticide stories, we hear of these injections being put into different fruits in India. That changes the perception, and aspiration becomes very important, and aspirational fruit becomes very important. We did not know what kiwi was until and unless we had dengue, and we were told that if you consume kiwi fruit, your platelet count will go up faster. And that is how it happened, and that changes the scenario. So we need to understand that when it comes to quality, when it comes to health, when it comes to supply chain, that is important. I was talking to a few fresh fruit importers yesterday, and they were telling me that apples from India don't reach the southern part of India in certain months of the year. So for 4 months, someone sitting in Tamil Nadu cannot have Indian apples, but he can enjoy apples from anywhere in the world. Why should an Indian be restricted from consuming apples during certain parts of the year? They should be allowed to have apples all year round. Similarly, there are certain fruits which are not indigenous to us, and avocado is not indigenous to us. I met a lady in the morning, and she said that she is farming for avocados now in India, in Manesar. And I'm happy to see that she is doing that. And she said it's good for kids. And that is something, it's a healthy alternative that is available to us in India. If it is farmed in India, it is produced in India, we are more than happy to do that. But for that, you need to allow international fruit to come in the country. So this is the panel. So there was a confusion, and Ambassador High Commissioner Pine was asked a question which I was supposed to ask him, but I would still engage him in asking him, kiwi is, the marketing of kiwi has been phenomenal, and your country has been amazingly effective in terms of promoting kiwi as a fruit. As the New Zealand High Commission, what are the activities that you are trying to engage in terms of promoting kiwi fruit? And the other product which is becoming very important in India today is the avocados. Today, most of us are buying avocados at 200 rupees to 600 rupees a piece, which is exorbitant for anyone. Even the diplomats feel it is exorbitant. So now, what is to be done where we can bring the prices down? Obviously, there's a shelf life issue, there is cold chain issue. So, what are the things that you are engaging in? What kind of trade promotion activities for kiwi fruit and avocados specifically? Apples, you are growing. We've seen that the market for apples for New Zealand has grown in the last few years. And you've done a great job with that. So, kiwi and avocados. High Commissioner, please. Can I have the mic with him?
Thanks very much. Yeah, well, look, the point was made, wasn't it, that kiwi fruit aren't indigenous to New Zealand, and that's true, right? We've never claimed they were. I'm pleased to hear the story that they started in India. Everything started in India, but they came to New Zealand from China, actually. And when I was growing up, we called them Chinese gooseberries. But what the success story was developing and commercialising that fruit into something recognisable and marketable, and that's something New Zealand's very proud of. So Zespri, we feel, is the world leader in the fruit, and they're very, very interested in India. So the conversation we're having with Zespri is a very serious conversation. They're putting together an industry development plan that they've used in other countries successfully. They have a very clear from the R&D end to the marketing end and everything in between product that they are here, and we've started talking to the Indian authorities about. They want to see a reduction in the tariff in return, and I think that's a good approach if you want to see the tariff come down. So that means we have to kind of connect a lot of dots, right? Because the assistance itself has to be provided to a state at the state level of government, but what Zespri's looking for has to be provided by the federal government at the federal level. So we're, trying to involve everyone in that conversation. We're trying to make it succeed. The magic ingredient in all of this is counter-seasonality. We're no threat to the development of the Indian industry, and in fact, in the long term, there are opportunities to market together offshore, because one of the things that all perishable providers struggle with is maintenance of supermarket shelf space all year round, and there's no reason why there couldn't be good partnerships developed. Now, avocados, the price, they're an expensive fruit everywhere. In New Zealand, they've kind of become the touchstone for a generational quarrel. Young kids are complaining about being locked out of the housing market because the house prices are too high, and they are. And the parents respond, you don't have the deposit for a house because you're spending all your money on avocado on toast at expensive cafes. But it is, if you look at the price, there's one answer to that price: more of the product needs to be produced. And it can be produced here in India. We're at a much earlier stage in the discussion with our own industry about what they might do in India than we are in the case of kiwi fruit. But the interest is absolutely genuine. I'm very interested to talk to anyone here from the avocado industry about how New Zealand can contribute.
Thank you, High Commissioner. Absolutely, and that is something that we all should be happy about. In fact, because we have to cut down the session, I would want to ask this question and bring it to the farmers sitting over here. Will New Zealand be happy to share technology transfer? Will you be happy to have collaborations when it comes to educating our farmers? Because as the earlier session demonstrated, that our yields are not something which are very good. We don't have that much land space in terms of increasing farmer productivity, but we can use technology, which we are kind of wary. We are happy to use a smartphone, but when it comes of using technology to increase farming, and when we travel, we see a farm which is 150 acres and there is just one control room and everything is operated from there. Whereas here on the other side, we see it as a very labor-intensive job. So, will New Zealand be happy to share some bit of that technology?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we need to think clearly about who's sharing what. We have an organisation called G2G in New Zealand that brings together all the government departments and thinks about how their intellectual property and the soft knowledge that they have among the government departments can be shared, and we take responsibility for that as a government. But the more specific stuff you're talking about in terms of, improving yields, most of that IP is held by, and soft knowledge, a lot of it is soft knowledge as well as IP, that's held by the private companies and the producers. So we can't command them to share it, but we certainly encourage them to do so, and we believe they want to, and so the Zespri case is the leading example. But I think you'll find that attitude among our companies. There's a realism that if they want to participate in the market here, they've got to contribute to the development. So I think that's the attitude you'll find overwhelmingly among New Zealand companies. But I can't make any
Thank you so
legal
much.
commitments on their behalf.
Absolutely understand. And IPR and technology transfer only happens when there is a collaboration or a joint venture which happens in India, and with the country is looking, or the individual farmer or company over there is looking to collaborate in India. I think that is an opportunity for Indian farmers to collaborate and work on. Moving on from New Zealand to the Northern Hemisphere, Canada. Nitin, Canadian cranberries and blueberries have been talked about, and again, same thing. Indians did not know much about cranberries and blueberries, except for the social media posting where we used to see that they are high in antioxidant value. And what we've seen is over the years, the prices of that product, which were earlier sold at 500 and 600 rupees, have come down to about 250, 300 rupees, which is becoming more affordable for every household to buy, at least in the upper middle class and certain parts of the middle class. We've seen you working hard to make sure that the product is available across, and you're doing a lot of trade promotions. What are some of the activities as the High Commission of Canada that you are engaged in terms of promoting these products in the Indian market, and what do you see as the future trends for your product in the country?
Thank you, Amit. Absolutely, Canada enjoys, I think, a very positive brand perception in India and other markets. We're known as a country that produces very delicious, safe, healthy food. And I think, as some of the points were made this morning coming out of the pandemic, everybody's focus really is on how to eat healthier. Blueberries and cranberries out of Canada is a large part of that. The challenge for us from Canada really is that we don't have a lot of brands. We have the raw product that's being packaged into brands very commonly by our southern neighbors in the US, and then exported all over the world. But to that point, I think what we're seeing in India is this increasing demand. The consumers want the product year-round, so Indian importers are being very innovative and creative in finding global sources for these products. If I can add cherries to the mix as well, your earlier slide showed a dramatic increase in consumption of cherries in India. And I think Canada is also well positioned to supply cherries in addition to blueberries and cranberries. We're happy from the High Commission end to promote and support activities of the industries and the companies in the market, not just from a trade perspective. I was really happy to see Cravo mentioned as one of the sponsors of this event. This is a proud Canadian company providing greenhouse and covered spaces for production of crops and fruit. And actually, companies like Grevo are working with Indian partners to increase productivity and grow fruit that previously was difficult to do in the area. So I'm really proud to say that Canada is able to support not just the trade, but the collaboration angle as well.
Thank you so much, Nitin. I would have one question at the end for all the panelists, but that question would be that what is that one barrier that you believe, if removed, will help you grow the market faster? It could be a tariff barrier, it could be a non-tariff barrier, but that one single barrier, so you can start thinking about it. Moving to Australia, again in the Southern Hemisphere, Kiran, you've recently joined in, and your joining in has been followed by the ECTA agreement, which is the first free trade agreement that India has signed after UAE, and that has brought a lot of positive views in terms of the trade agreements which are under negotiations with different parts of the world, and India is seen to be more pragmatic with free trade agreements now. Do you see any benefits for the fresh fruit importers industry in general, and how do you see that helping grow the Australian produce in India?
Absolutely, Amit. In terms of the ACTA agreement, it definitely provides a lot of outcomes for the fresh sector. So the agreement does remove or reduce tariffs across a range of commodities. So this includes avocados, cherries, berries, a range of nuts, apricots, just to name a few. And so this agreement is very much going to be very important in terms of Australia's ability to penetrate the market, because it's very clear that Australia is not as present as some of our colleagues here. And so this agreement, we see it as a head turner for us. We'll hopefully see, as off the back of this agreement, more Australian companies, more Australian producers looking to India as a viable market, because our markets at the moment very much focus on Asia, Southeast Asia, North Asia in particular, but there's a real strong incentive to look into countries like India to diversify our export markets. So this agreement is very much a head turner for us, and I'm hoping that businesses here are also looking to Australia to source products as well. But I did want to make one comment. I think, High Commissioner, you made an excellent point earlier about tariffs coming down and levelling the playing field across the board. And I think that's a very important point, because from our perspective, this is a great agreement. It does provide some pretty immediate impacts for our sector once the agreement is entered into force. But really what we do want to see across the board is protection and safeguarding of the rules-based order in which we operate. We want to see agricultural liberalisation be front of mind, not just on tariffs, but on non-tariff issues as well in the WTO, and bringing those issues down on a global stage is very important. So that's I think an excellent point that you did make earlier this morning. So ACTA's not over yet for us. I should make that point as well. So this is an interim agreement. And our negotiators are committed to coming back to the table, I think 75 days after the agreement's been signed. So we are hoping to see further liberalisation of tariffs for a range of commodities that have missed out, for example, apples, pistachios. And so once the negotiators do come back to the table, we'll be talking about the suite of things that missed out, and also where it's not complete elimination, can we go further? I think it's very important that we do continue to push ahead.
Thank you so much, Kiran. And we hope, I remember in the beginning when Apple started coming in India, there were only two countries which were exporting Apple. One was US and one was Australia. And then New Zealand came into the foray. And that was the time that, the best, crunchiest Apple were available to us. But then things started swaying away. There were production, there were challenges in terms of price points. And India, no matter what, is somehow the most price-sensitive market. Even the upper middle class, when it goes to a grocery store to buy a product, they're always looking at the price, and we look at the price in terms of the value proposition that the product offers to us, and that is very important. And that is how we believe that Australian produce would be very beneficial for the Indian consumers, and as well as the Indian importers who are part of the trade. Moving to Babette from the Flanders International Trade, Belgium. We've been seeing that Belgium is focused on bringing a lot of trade missions going up in front. We were recently at AHAR also. You had a huge trade mission which had come down. What do you see in terms of the perspective? When I was looking at the Apple data, you were number 12 when it came to apples, which is very recent. Till earlier, we never used to see a lot of Belgian apples coming into the country. Or 14, I don't know, 12 or 14. So the fact that, there is demand for produce from Belgium. It's not a large country in terms of production of apples, but other fruits can definitely come in. And we see there is a free trade agreement going with the European Union, and there are discussions going on. Do you see any prospects of increasing the Belgian portfolio besides the chocolate and the beer? What is in the fresh category that you believe has more potential in the market?
I know that the question about the regulatory issues comes later, but I'll already drop it in here, then I can give another answer when it comes. So actually, for the moment, we were one of the first EU member states to be allowed to import apples and pears into India. But we have a lot of files pending. I think most of the files from the EU member states are from us. We are looking forward to have strawberries, blueberries, tomatoes, cucumbers, and some more that we can export here. So we really, our producers really think India is a market, but for the moment it's only apples and pears. And the problem with our pears is actually, it was nice listening that in Europe they think they will have to change their clothes after eating a mango. So our pears, there's so much juice inside that it comes up till here when you bite them, and they were not very much appreciated on the Indian market. So I think that we have to also, what I feel is we're all talking about we're exporting apples, but at home, when I go to the fruit shop, I will really say, I want this apple because I want to make this in my kitchen. I want that apple because I want to, and this is not here yet. So I think we should, if we want to sell more, we have to raise consumer awareness, what you can do with our fruits, and then also our vegetables. I'm always very disappointed when I buy tomatoes here. I'm here since 8 years, and I feel that the tomatoes don't have this, they're not so nice as they are in Europe, which I don't understand because there's plenty of sun here. So that's what was said before also. We can learn from each other, and with imported fruits and vegetables, then here the taste will change, and there will be more opportunities for everybody.
Absolutely, I agree on that. The fact that the flavors are very different when it comes to Europe, and I was talking to one of the five-star hotels and the chef, and I asked him, what is different about your butter chicken? And he says, I use Italian peeled tomatoes for the butter chicken. So, there are these stories where, because of consistency also this changes, because Indian tomatoes are not consistent throughout the year. The flavor profile changes, the sourness changes. It comes from different regions also, so that has an impact on the flavor. But we've been using them, and that's why we add a little salt and a little sugar to kind of balance it out, and that's the Indian masalas which play an important role when it comes. Belgium, whenever we travel there and when we go to a grocery store, my first hand goes on the berries that are there, all the berries, the varieties of berries that are there, which we don't get over here. And when we get over here, it's obnoxiously priced. You buy there for €1 or €2, and here I have to pay 8 or 10 euros. But that's the cost of imports, freight, and everything else. And then everyone says that we importers have a hefty margin, so I don't know, must be there. But that is it. But moving on to Mark, he represents USDA. He's the agriculture attaché over at the USDA. Mark, we wanted to talk to you about the fact that when are we getting this 20% off this Apple business, because that is creating a huge gap with the US apples. The market has been dropping drastically, and we want the Washington apple, which was earlier a synonym of imported apple. Imported apple meant Washington apple. In India, water meant Bisleri, or mineral water meant Bisleri, in a similar fashion. So, that is something that we want to talk about in terms of the retaliatory tariff. How far are we in terms of talking about it? if you're comfortable talking about that. And we see that you guys are now promoting a lot of other fresh fruits from your region. So, what are the other activations that you've done to promote fresh fruit in India?
You bet. Thank you, Mr. Lohani, distinguished members on the dais. Thank you all. Yeah, it's getting right into apples. It's a real challenge, and many of the importers are well aware of that. Not just the high 50% tariff, but also the retaliatory tariff that has really made an impact on Washington apples. And Washington apples are obviously kind of what we think are the gold standard for quality and safety of U.S. horticulture products. That's one thing that we pride ourselves when we at the U.S. Department of Agriculture sell our produce, that we can demonstrate that yes, these products are safe, high quality, nutritious, and affordable. With the retaliatory tariff, it's tough. We've had lots of discussions with our Indian interlocutors or Indian counterparts, but it's a grind. It's important that we, there's a whole basket of items, trade issues that we want to hammer out, and getting the retaliatory tariff down or eliminated is one of those things. In the meantime, we have to kind of look and see what we can accomplish where there are wins. There's been a lot of discussions about the Indian mango, and Apita, Mr. Vaz had mentioned about Indian mangoes making their way to the United States. Well, how did we get there? We got there through a bilateral engagement. It was a tough grind, lots of back and forth. And what happened? We have Indian mangoes, Indian pomegranate arils for U.S. cherries and U.S. alfalfa hay. And that's kind of the reality that we have. It's a slow grind for getting those markets developed. As we speak, we have USDA inspectors throughout the packing houses in India inspecting the mangoes. Just a couple weeks ago, President Biden even got a crate of mangoes, and it was a very joyful moment. And that's great. We want to be able to see more of that. Just a month ago, we've had the phytosanitary order for U.S. cherries that would offer for a systems approach for facilitated U.S. trade for cherries. So that's the way that we have to address this, especially in this era of many challenges that we've seen. One of the areas that we haven't discussed yet is high food inflation and how do we bring down these costs. So expanding trade and not keeping high tariffs and finding those opportunities for trade, especially in horticulture, when food security is going to be a major problem in the months and years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. A counter question. You spoke about cherries, and recently I remember that I got a box of cherries. Sumit actually sent it across to me from US, the Northwest cherries, and they were phenomenal. The size, the color, the texture, the flavor. Now, I see that now it's again gone missing. So is there some challenge in terms of, because I know that logistics costs have literally shot up the roof. From US, it used to be about $2.50 per kilo. Now it's gone to $4 to $5 per kilo. So is it because of the high import cost in terms of the freight, or is it some other reason that we don't see those cherries back again?
Sure. US cherries, about a year ago around this time is when we first started seeing them on the market. And these are the huge Northwest cherries that we have. We also have California cherries that we'll be promoting as well. A lot of it, yes, global supply chain challenges. A lot of it's being shipped via air freight. And the exorbitant costs and the cold chain requirements make it a very difficult proposition to get quality American cherries into the market. Having said that, with this systems approach that we're going to be having, and once the phytosanitary order, PQ order is in place, which we expect it to be in the next 30 days or so, hopefully, that will make things much easier as far as bringing in products and hopefully bringing them into all throughout India. It's not just the tier 1, but the tier 2 and tier 3 cities.
Fantastic. Looking forward to those cherries. Moving from one part of cherries to another country which I have tasted the cherries, and they are again phenomenal. Again, Sumit is responsible for the box that I got for those cherries, which is from Chile. And ProChile has been one of the most proactive trade departments that I have seen. I've been working with them for the last 2.5, 3 years or 4 years now, and they've been very effective their approach towards promoting their produce from one of the farthest countries from India. The time span is about 45 days when you look at sea freight shipments. In fact, they've been talking about feeder shipments, and they've been talking about making sure that India is a big market for them, and they've grown tremendously in every segment. When you look at apples, when you look at walnuts, you look at categories where Chilean products have been going far and beyond their reach, which I would have imagined if 3 years back someone would have told me about this product. But Marcela, you've been heading Pro-Chile as the Trade Commissioner, and you've been working very effectively in terms of promoting, and we've attended some of your events, and they've been phenomenal in terms of reaching the consumer, educating the consumer, talking about the packaging, talking about the product, talking about the produce, talking about the environment in which it is produced. What are some of the upcoming promotional activities that you are engaging in? How do you see the Indian market in the next 1 or 2 years? What is the growth trajectory that you're looking at? You guys already have a PFT, which is a preferential agreement, and I've been hearing that there are discussions going on to increase the number of items in those, in that category. So how do you see the Chilean product in terms of the Indian market, and what is the growth trajectory that you're looking at?
Thank you, Amit. To start, thank you for this wonderful introduction about Chile and his wonderful product. I am really proud about our country and all its product. And well, speaking about our strategies and what we are doing to improve the business, today our main objectives is let you know to the Indian consumers about the Chilean product. Because we can have the product, but if the consumer, they don't know that this product come from Chile, it's nothing. So yes, we want to go for the Indian consumer. Sounds great, but we know that it's a huge challenge because the Indian consumer, they move on base the price. But also we know that the quality, they are looking for the best quality. For this reason today, our principal objectives is go for the Indian consumer and let you know that these incredible cherries, apples, kiwis, pears, and come from Chile. Because in the end, who is move the needles in terms of fruit demands always will be the consumer. On base this target, we are working in 3 important campaigns for this year. The first one is Unboxing 2022, whose successful version 2021 gave us the opportunity to share with the Indian consumer a couple of the best Chilean products that are allowed here in India. Secondly, to let you know about Chile and understand our offer, this year we will have, and this is a preview actually, a launching of our new campaign that we call in Chile is not Chile, okay? Okay, maybe Chile, they can look like a chili, but definitely we are not spicy, okay? And finally, to complete this circle, we are working too in an important campaign that is a social media campaign that also we're looking for a launching this year. But what we will do with our importers that are the key in this business? And yes, we have not forget them. And for this importer, we have one-click importers that is a digital platform to upload their importation requirements that have as result the coordination by our office for virtual agenda with Chilean exporter validates, with those who can concrete business in a safe way. But also we have business agenda coordination, invitation for webinars in specific topics, business round meeting like eSabores and Inexpros, introduction and connection with Chilean exporters through Chilean commercial missions here in India. So for close, a couple of new activities and action that also soon they will let we know. In total, as you can see, we are working in developing a strong commercial plan. And I am pretty sure that we will help us to increase the exportation. We are a very active office, and as I mentioned, and I emphasize, the most important is listening to the market. We can have an incredible product, but if we don't know how to sell, what we will do?
We will love our product. So this is an essential. Listen to the Indian consumer. So I hope that I answered to your question.
Absolutely, you did. Absolutely. And thank you so much. We hope that more Indians, after your educational information to them about what Chile means and Chile is not Chile, would be happy. Before I move down to Angelo from Brazil, I have a small survey or a question. How many of you have eaten international fruit in any form in India? Not abroad, but in India. How many of you? Can you raise your hands, please? Look at the number. So, if you can look at it, it's about, absolutely here as well. That means that the penetration is definitely there. That means that the demand is definitely there. The only thing is the right education, the right collaboration, which is very much important because in India, retailers don't import fresh fruits. It is the importers who do that, and they are the ones who are supplying to the retailers. Also, only about 7 to 9% of the entire Indian market is organized. 93 to 95% of the market is still unorganized. So you still have to go to the Azadpur Mandi and the Vashi market to buy your produce, and from where you get all your produce coming to your homes, from the small vendors and retailers and distributors or shacks where you buy your produce. So moving on to Angelo from Brazil, I wanted to understand that we saw that recently Brazil has forayed, and you've just got access a few years back for your apples and other produce. What are the other product categories that you believe would be working in terms of the Indian market? Though, again, distance is a barrier. You guys are about 35 to 40 days in terms of transit time. And for fresh fruit, that's a huge, and direct flights are not available. You have to come via European country or Middle East. So what are your opportunities that you see for the Indian market, and what are the other fresh produce that you're looking for the Indian market?
Yeah, thank you, Amit. The good thing about being the last to speak is most of the good things have already been said. So it's such an honor to be here amongst those August speakers. But anyway, let's take a look at the current situation. Costs of production are rising, prices are rising, inflation is rising. I don't want to be apocalyptic, but especially because I can see a good sign out of all this, especially after the pandemics, which is a subtle but powerful shift in the consumer's perception towards the relationship between food and health. As it was said, people are looking more and more for food that can lead them into a healthier way of life, and they have developed this perception that food and health have always been together. So in that respect, I think that fresh fruits play a key role in all that. As there is a saying that an apple a day keeps the doctor away. So I'm sorry for the doctors here. I don't mean to disrespectful, but anyway. So fresh fruits, I think, plays a key role in all this. And Brazil, being a tropical country that has different climates from the north to the south, and being rich in biodiversity, just as India is, I think that's an awesome opportunity. And having said that, I can think about different products that can be, including apple, of course, including apple, that can be as good examples. For instance, citrus, avocado. And Brazil has actually, that's something that I'd like to mention afterwards if we have the time, because we've been discussing avocado, the opening of the market for avocado a lot, and from a long time ago. So that's something that we need to, that's a challenge. Avocado is an example, berries is another example, and there is a very interesting situation about berries, because there is this wonderful Brazilian berry which is called açaí. I don't know if you have tasted that, and it has everything to do with health, actually, as some other people have told. So I think that the opportunities are there, plenty of opportunities, especially after this moment that we are living, after the pandemics and during this crisis, but the opportunities are there, and I can see a lot of different products that we can work, but we need to tackle with these challenges, and many people have said here about this, and the technical barriers and the trade barriers are still there.
Absolutely agreed. And acai is becoming very important in the processed food industry. We see a lot of premixes, a lot of protein mixes having acai. And that is there, and an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Recently, I saw a meme where it said a kiwi a day keeps the apple away. So those are things, because they were trying to promote kiwi, and they said that kiwi has more nutritional aspects than an apple. So these are things that are always very educative. Now, back to the last question, which I said I would ask you. One challenge that you feel would help you grow the market quicker, faster, and would be beneficial for the consumers in India in terms of your country or your region. We can start with Angelo, because you have the mic, sir.
Well, the first thing that is on everybody's mind is the tariffs. Reduction of tariffs is something that is mandatory, but not only that, the trade barriers and the time, reducing the time where in which the pleas are analyzed by the ministry, and the requirements, having real sensible requirements, and asking for requirements that really make sense. I think that's something that we really need to address quickly.
Perfect. Babette, please.
I can only agree with what he was saying. I said I'm here 8 years, and some files are already pending since 8 years. So it would be nice when I go that the fruits and vegetables can come in.
Marcela.
Well, when you come from a faraway country like Chile, that is, in the other side of the world, everything is a challenge. Everything is a challenge. And of course, for other side, we have the logistic problems, the supply chain, taxes, policies. So it's slowly process. That would be great if they can improve. But also we have other challenge like culture, language, and other one. But to go more deeper, honestly speaking, the real challenge is the Indian consumer. I insist on this point because we need to make sure that always the consumer purchase the option for Chilean product. This is our challenge because we have a lot of competence, as they can see. So we want that the people going, and when they're going for a cherries, they say, I want cherries, but not just cherries. I want Chilean cherries. I want Chilean kiwis. We want Chilean apples. This is our huge challenge. But in the same thing, and give me 1 minute more. When we talk about challenge, also I think that we need to talk about the opportunities. After the challenge, we have the opportunity. And I think that one of the most important things that we have is that India, they have a space for everyone. That this is a huge opportunity. And when we have so many competitors, the most important is that we can navigate in the same boat. Because yes, we are competence, but also we are partners, and we can do collaboration for improve all the requirements or the process that the government they need that support us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marcela. High Commissioner, please.
Well, I already said what I had to say about tariffs, but since I'm getting a second bite at the cherry, and while we're on the subject of cherries, everyone makes great cherries, but we'll get you down to Central Otago, one of the world's great stone fruit regions, and then we'll have the conversation about who makes the best cherries.
We can have a cherry competition with all the cherries and blind tasting, and absolutely we can do that.
I think the world needs a cherry competition. But look, for the second point, I would pick up something you said yourself. Keep the politics out of the science. It's so important. It's so important to the credibility. It's so important to the results that we get. It's so important to consumer confidence. It's fundamental. That stuff is hard enough to do when you're just doing it straight. Our biggest non-tariff barrier at the moment is not fruit, it's logs. And we're having a tough discussion with the Indian government that I'm 100% confident is being done on the basis of legitimate concerns. We're absolutely sure that there isn't a hidden agenda, but I can tell you it's tough enough to show that pests that India want to keep out of the country legitimately, that could potentially come in on our logs, to prove to everyone's satisfaction that our treatment methods work. That's a hard enough conversation to have. Don't get any politics in it.
I absolutely hope that happens, actually. So
Yeah. So I mean, there's a place for politics. Every country's border authorities has a big backlog and a big queue. There is a legitimate place for discussion about the prioritisation of requests in that queue. That's legitimate. But once they're out, all of the rest of us just back off and let the technicians do it on the merits. That would be the key message.
absolutely agree. It should be more risk-based in terms of the pest and everything. And you shouldn't be waiting 8 years like Bebet has been waiting for one of the phytosanitary approvals that happens. And I know that the files in the ministry move at a very slow pace. And after the meeting, you feel that everything has been hunky-dory. He's understood what you're saying, and he said, yes, absolutely, wait for 15 days. You'll hear from me, and those 15 days never come. And you go back again, and he'll again tell you the same line, wait for 15 days, and I'll get back to you. And that happens. Nitin, please, you've been intrinsic in terms of, because you were earlier as a role, helped to get access to a lot of products from Canada. So what is that one challenge that you see is hindering the growth of Canadian produce in India?
So I think a lot of this has already been mentioned today, but really I'd encourage the Indian government to have faith and trust in an open economy. Rules-based order, Kiran already talked about having a commitment to the WTO principles and other things, but really this fear of imports, and I really commend organizations like FIFI and the importers in this room who are every day taking great risks. Not from the produce you're bringing in, not from the various supply and logistics challenges you're facing, but a large part of your risk is coming from your government in terms of not having a consistent, predictable, stable trade policy that allows you to flourish and contribute to your own country's economy. And I would really highlight that. I think that comes out in a lot of the decisions the Indian government makes. We have seen some changes in that in the 7 or 8 years that I've been here, but I really encourage India to take greater strides in that regard.
Thank you so much, Nitin. Kiran, you're 3 months on the job, and then what do you feel, because you've just joined in, and obviously if you felt something in the last 3 months, imagine Nitin for 8 years and everyone else who's been here for a longer period of time, what they must be feeling. And still they are not frustrated because of the opportunity. And that is one thing which India has to offer for sure. It's a great opportunity. It is a great opportunity for products from across. It's a great opportunity for the local producers and farmers to make sure that if they're able to produce similar products in India, the consumers have an opportunity to buy that. And that becomes a big success for both international and domestic market. Let them choose if they want to buy an imported apple or an Indian apple or an imported blueberry or an Indian blueberry. Let the consumer decide that, and that would be great for business and F&B trade in general. So Kiran, please.
I agree with everything that everyone said, and I'm sure I'll agree with what Mark has to say as well. So please. But look, from my perspective, what I can see is there's an absolute pull factor. We've talked about the opportunities. We've got champions in the room here, such as yourself, Amit, and everyone else here today. But what is a push factor that we need from countries like Australia, where, as I said before, the presence is small. There is a desire, but there's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of issues, which does scare off, Australian exporters and Australian businesses. So we've talked about NTMs and NTBs, non-tariff barriers. We've talked about all the issues with supply chains. All those issues compound. We talked about the fact that India is a price-sensitive market, and when you compound all these issues, it all adds cost. And yes, Australia has benefited or will benefit from an ECTA agreement, but despite that, all these other issues does add cost, which does detract us from being able to enter the market effectively. And I believe this is a challenge that everyone else here is also facing. So what can we do to partner further? We need our countries to work with India, to talk to the government, talk to the decision makers around making better policy decisions, try and remove that friction and make those policy conditions, like create that certainty in the market, because with an open market, we let the market do its job. But when we have that friction, it adds costs. And without that, our exporters are quite reluctant to enter. And so what do we need to do to address those issues? That's what we really need to tackle going forward. And that's what I've observed in the next, in the last 3 months, 4 months. And I envisage that will be the challenge for the next 3-4 years as well.
Thank you so much, Karan. Last but not the least, the champion of when it comes to raising challenges. I was speaking to an officer and he says Americans have a problem with everything. We don't allow this and we don't allow that. And I said, the fact that you are not allowing so many things from that region is in itself a challenge, because as an importer, I want to import products from that region. That region has a lot of produce which is available at a great price. It's got the best of packaging. Their food safety standards are high. Why don't you allow their products to come in the country? And then he said, there's also politics aligned with it, and that's one of the challenges. So Mark, please.
It's true. We Americans are obstinate. It's very... No, I mean, I agree with what everyone has said up here. And I think for me personally, and maybe on behalf of the government as well, I think our biggest challenge, and this is what Kieran had mentioned, is market uncertainty. I mean, just look what happened in the last month here in India. Wheat export ban, sugar export ban, fertilizer shortages, the invasion of Ukraine, which is out there as well, COVID, all of these factors are playing a huge role. And who's going to be playing, who's usually going to be the one with the biggest challenges to face are, those with less income, those who can afford fruits and vegetables, and those who don't have access to them. So all that compounded with a record heat wave in India, for instance, where mango production in certain states have taken a hit. U.S. reduced cherry crop, reduced apple crop even in just the last cycle. So as importers, as everyone here in this room, I think short term is ensuring that there's some level of market certainty so that trade can be allowed, reducing those barriers so that we can, at least weather some of these storms in the short term, so that long term we can focus about some of these little minute details that are always part of, the trade negotiations. So not to sound apocalyptic, but all it is to say, there is hope. I mean, trade and partnerships, I think the partnership that we have here with India, with the Indian government is key. And that's how we make all of our successes, through long-term partnerships and, working hard to get the job done. Thank you.
Absolutely agree. And you guys are celebrating 75 years of India-US relationships, and that is a key factor when it shows that everyone is looking at bilateral trade, everyone is looking at increasing business with India, both bilaterally. You can export and you can import, and that is why we are here. And I would thank all the speakers and all the panelists for their candid point of view, which is very important, that makes sure that we are able to raise some of these concerns to the higher authorities and tell them that this is what's going on. And if we can get some leeway on that, it would be great. So thank you all, and thank you for the wonderful audience. We don't have time, otherwise I would have definitely asked questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Also, a big round of applause for our moderator, Amit sir. He's been exceptionally well. I would request Mr. M.B. Naqvi and Amit sir to please present a token of love and appreciation to all our panelists. Please. Ms. Marcella, please give her, and of course all the other ones, a big round of applause. Yes, Amit sir, please. We will have it again. We'll have the picture again. Amit. Mr. Nitin. Mr. Mark. Mr. Angelo. Mr. Kiran. Ms. Babette. And also one for a dynamic moderator, Mr. Amit Lohani, everybody. Yes, can you all join in for a group picture? Also, thank you so much, His Excellency. Thank you. Let's collectively give all of them a big round of applause. We couldn't have asked for a better start to our conference and summit. Thank you so much. Thank you to all our panelists and our moderator. We request you to please take your seats. Thank you.